Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to learn how to write equations in slope-intercept form. If you recall from last class, slope-intercept form is in the form of y equals mx plus b. So we're going to write that right here, y equals mx plus b. The m is the slope. Okay, so the coefficient right before the x is called the slope, and the b is the y-intercept. So where the line crosses the y-axis. The formula that we use for slope, or m, is y2 minus y sub 1 divided by x2 minus x of 1. So if we had 2 points, say we had 2, 3, and 4, 6, okay, 2 ordered pairs or 2 points on the line, we would have an x1, y1, and an x2, y2. The subscript is just how we show the 2 different points. We would take the difference of our y values, so 6 minus 3 divided by 4 minus 2. And that's how we would get the slope. 6 minus 3 is 3, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So we would have a slope of 3 halves. Okay, always simplify your fraction. All right, so to write the equation in slope-intercept form, we start out pretty easy. If we're given the slope and the y-intercept, all we have to do is substitute in. So say I said the slope was 2 and the y-intercept was negative 1. All I'd have to do is plug it in. Y is equal to 2x minus 1. Okay, if my slope was maybe 1/2 and my y-intercept was 0, then my equation of the line would be y is equal to 1/2 x, and we're not going to bother to write plus 0, so it would just look like that. Okay, we'll give one more example. Say I have a slope of negative 3 and a y-intercept of 6. This would be y is equal to negative 3x, whoops, don't forget that, plus 6. So the slope would be negative 3. All right, so what we're going to learn today is a new form. So we did slope-intercept form, but now we're going to use a form called the point-slope formula. So it's y minus y of 1 equals m times x minus x of 1. Okay, and how that works is if you're given a slope, so say I had the slope of 4, and I had a point, and maybe my point was 2, 4, okay, an ordered pair. This would be considered my x of 1, and this is my y of 1. All we're going to do is plug it into the point-slope formula. So we would have y minus 4 equals 4, because my slope is m, times x minus 2. Okay, we would then distribute the 4, because our whole goal is to get it into point-slope form, to get it into slope-intercept form. So we would say 4x minus 8. And then we would add our 4, and we would get y is equal to 4x minus 4. So the equation of that line would be then in slope-intercept form. So we use point-slope formula to get us into point-slope form, to get us into slope-intercept form. Okay. The other thing we're going to do today is if we're given 2 points. So say we have 2 ordered pairs. Maybe I've got 1, 4, and I've got 2, 8. 2 ordered pairs. The first thing I have to do is get the slope. I'm not given the slope, so I'm going to calculate it. So my slope would be 8 minus 4 divided by 2 minus 1. 8 minus 4 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. So my slope would be 4. I can then pick either point. It doesn't matter which one. I'll pick 1, 4. I'm going to put it back into this formula. Okay, so we'll use y minus y of 1 equals m times x minus x of 1. So we're going to then use this as my x1 and this is my y1. So it would be y minus 4 is equal to 4 for my slope times x minus 1. We would then distribute 4x minus 4, and then when we add 4 to both sides, okay, y would be equal to just 4x plus 0, or just 4x. Okay, so I went through some of those examples pretty fast, but we're going to start to use them and hopefully you'll get the hang of it. Okay, so we're going to start out with these examples by using the graph to identify the slope and the intercepts. Okay, so I'm going to identify here where I cross. These graphs have shifted a little bit. But in example number 1, to calculate the slope Okay, I'm going to look at my rise. Remember, slope is your rise over your run. So I'm going to go up. If you see here, I go up 5, and then I go to the right 1, 2, 3. So my slope is 5/3. My y-intercept is where I cross the y-axis. So I can see the point that's crossing the y is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're at 0, 5. Okay, and my x-intercept would be at 1, 2, -3, 0. So in slope-intercept form, all I really need is the slope and the y-intercept, which is the b, and I can put it in the form y equals 5/3 x plus 5. Okay? All right, if I looked at number 2, I'm going to use this point here and this point here. I'm going to calculate my slope. I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go to the right 1. So my slope is going to be -3 over 1, which is -3. My y-intercept where I cross is going to be at -1, 2, 3, so -3, 0, -3, and my x-intercept is going to be at -1, 0. Okay, again, I only need the slope and the y-intercept to write the equation of the line. Y is equal to -3x minus 3. All right, number 3. Okay, I'm going to identify these 2 points as my intercepts. My slope is going to be, I'm going to go up 1 and then to the left 1. So 1 over -1, my slope is -1. My y-intercept is at 0, 1. Okay, the point right here. And then the x-intercept is at 1, 0. Okay, so slope-intercept form, we get y is equal to -x plus 1. Okay, so why don't you guys, well, let's look at 4 and 5. I was going to say to try them, but 4 and 5 are special cases. So 4 is a vertical line. We like to think of hoi vux, or vux for vertical line, begins with a V. The second letter U tells us the slope, which is undefined. Okay. The y-intercept, if you look at this, we're never crossing the y-axis, so there is none. And the x-intercept would be at -1, 2, 3. So we'll go at -3, 0. So the equation of this line, the vux, also tells us that it's going to begin with x equals. And since the x-intercept is at -3, there's the equation of our line. Number 5 is a horizontal line, so that tells me to use hoi to help me out. So horizontal line has a 0 slope. That's what that O tells us. It's really a 0. Okay, 0 slope. The equation of that line is y equals. Okay, but if I look at this, my y-intercept is at 1, 2, so it's at 0, 2. And I'm never going to cross the x-axis here, so I've got no x-intercept. So my equation of the line would just be y is equal to 2. All right, number 6, let's go back and identify the y-intercepts here. Okay, our slope, if we went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so 3 over -3, which would be a -1. Our y-intercept would be at 0, 3, and our x-intercept would be at 3, 0. Okay, so that in slope-intercept form, the equation would be y is equal to -x, okay, plus 3. All right, so the next 6 should be really easy. We're writing it in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We're actually given the slope, so there's our m, and the y-intercept is our b. So the first one would be y is equal to -2x plus 5. Okay, you can try all of these and check your answers. Y is equal to 8x minus 7. Y is equal to 3/4 x minus 3. Y is equal to -1/2 x plus 9. Okay, they should have been pretty straightforward. Number 8 gives us a special case. Our slope is 0. Okay, if the slope is 0, I'm going to think of hoi because there's my 0 slope. My y-intercept is 6, so I know that my y is just going to be equal to 6. It's a horizontal line. Okay, there's the equation. Slope is undefined. Okay, so in this example, I'm going to think of vux because we got our undefined slope. That means the equation of the line is going to start with x equals, and they tell us the x-intercept is 2. So there's the equation of the line. Okay, so moving on. Okay, now we're going to try to identify the slope and y-intercept and write the following in slope-intercept form. Now, I want you to be careful because if you're given a point, and this isn't going to always happen, but it's kind of nice when it does, if the point has an input of 0, then we know it's the y-intercept, okay, because an input of 0 and an output of -5, if I graph this, would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 0 input, I'm not going either way. I just go and end up on the y-axis. So this point is always the y-intercept. If it begins with an input of 0, and remember when we did y-intercepts, we said let the x be 0. So if the x value is 0, then you're looking at the y-intercept. So you can immediately identify your b. Okay, the b is -5. Okay, the slope we do need to calculate, and we'll calculate it using these 2 points. So -1 plus 5, because we're subtracting a negative, and then we have 3 minus 0. So we've got 4/3. Okay, once we have 4/3 as our slope, and we have the y-intercept, we can write the equation of the line. 4/3 x minus 5. Okay. This point 0, 1, there's our y-intercept is 1. Our slope would be -1 minus 1 divided by 4 minus 0. -1 minus 1 is -2/4, which is -1/2. Okay, so the equation of our line would be y is equal to -1/2 x plus 1. Okay, number 12 looks kind of weird, but a line is a function. Okay, most of our lines are. If we have an input of 0, okay, and an output of -2, and then we have an input of 8 and an output of 4. So if we rewrite it as 2 ordered pairs, okay, we can see that the y-intercept would be at -2 because there's our input of 0, and we can determine our slope to be 4 plus 2 divided by 8 minus 0, or 6/8, which is simplified to be 3/4. Once we have the slope and the y-intercept, f of x is going to be equal to 3/4 x, okay, minus 2. Notice here in this example I'm writing f of x instead of y, okay, but that's because we have it in the function notation there. All right, if I look at number 13, my input is -3, my output is 6, my input is 0, my output is 5. So there's my y-intercept of 5. My slope I'll calculate to be 5 minus 6 divided by 0 plus 3. Okay, this is going to give me a -1/3. So my function is going to be f of x is equal to -1/3 x plus 5. Okay, all right, so moving on, we want to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So our end result is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. But I have a point and I have a slope. So we're going to start out with point-slope form. Okay, and when I do that, I've got y minus 3 is equal to my slope, which is -4 times x plus 1. I can then distribute -4x minus 4, and then I add my 3 to both sides. So to get it into slope-intercept form, it's y is equal to -4x minus 1. Okay, and that would be for 14. 15, we're going to do the same thing. You might want to pause the video and try it yourself. Okay. But I'm going to get y minus 3 is equal to 2 times x minus 6. I just put it into point-slope form. I'm then going to distribute it. Y minus 3 equals 2x minus 12. And then I add my 3 to both sides. Okay, y is equal to 2x minus 9. All right. 16, we've got a point and a slope. We're going to do the same thing. Y plus 4 is equal to -3/4 times x minus 8. I'm going to distribute that 3/4, so I get -3/4 x plus 24/4 when I multiply. Okay, that means it's y plus 4 is equal to -3/4 x plus 6. Okay, so then when I subtract 4 from both sides, I get y is equal to -3/4 x minus plus 2 rather. All right, and 17. Okay, I know I'm going really fast, but you should pause it and try to watch the video. If I say y minus a -11 is y plus 11 is equal to 1/2 times x plus 3 because we're subtracting a negative. All right, and then this would be y plus 11 is equal to 1/2 x plus 3/2. All right, now I'm subtracting 11. So on this side, I'm actually going to subtract 22 halves because that's equivalent to 11. So y is equal to 1/2 x minus 19 halves. And there's our answer. Okay. All right, 18 is now an example where we have 2 points. Okay, so you have these 2 points. The first thing you have to do is get the slope. So the slope is going to be -1 minus 5 divided by 2 plus 2. Okay, 2 minus a -2. So we get -6/4, which is -3/2. Okay, at this point, you can pick either point. It doesn't matter which one. All right, and we put it into point slope form. Y minus 5 equals -3/2 times x plus 2. And then we distribute it. You get -3/2 x minus, so 3 times 2 is 6, -6/2, which is -3. And then when I add 5 to both sides, we end up with y is equal to -3/2 x plus 2. Okay, now watch what would have happened if I picked the other point. Okay, if you pick the other point, I'll do it in red, and I put it into point slope form. I've got y plus 1 is equal to -3/2 times x minus 2. When I distribute, y plus 1 equals -3/2 x. Okay, -3 times -2, this would be 6/2, which would be plus 3. So that when I subtract my 1 from both sides, I end up with y is equal to -3/2 x plus 2. So notice you get the same answer no matter what point you pick. All right, we'll finish up with the last one. Okay, we're going to get our slope, 4 plus 2 divided by -5 minus 1. We've got a 6 over -6, so it gives us a slope of -1. I'm going to pick this point. Y plus 2 equals -1 times x minus 1. Y plus 2 is equal to -x plus 1. And then when I subtract my 2 from both sides, my final answer is y is equal to -x minus 1. All right, so please review this and come see us if you have any questions.